Welcome back to Global War 1939. We just finished off the next round, and let's take a look. Sorry about taking so long. It was took a little holiday, and for some reason, four members of my family decided to have a birthday all in the same week. So here we are. Okay, so for the Germans, they're kind of in shock. Of the Russians rolling so well. Turn 3 is really early for Russia to be in the war, but the earliest they can possibly be in is round 2 if you're just basing off the die rolls. If Russia rolls 12s both times, 2 rounds in a row, sure, they could be in. But round 3 kind of took the Germans offhand. They thought they would have another turn or two to build up, so they had to go in now early. So they didn't penetrate too deep. They just took out the Baltic states and the Poles, 2 pieces, Western Russia and this territory here, which was enough to reclaim the $5 loss from the bonus that they get from Russia. So this does make that $5 up. So they didn't lose anything economically. They did make a strike using the Finnish and their transports into Leningrad. They did capture Leningrad, but slightly. It was a pretty close battle. The Germans did win it. I believe they finished with about 5 units. But Russia did counterattack using the force they had built up here that were going to go into Finland and a couple of units from Moscow. But the original attack by Germany, Russia had most of their air force here, so that all got wiped out. So that was the biggest blow. It wasn't that they lost or the Germans gained 2 IPCs for 1 round, is that they took out the Russian air force. Pretty much most of it. All they have left now is medium or a light bomber and 1 fighter. The rest is gone. But the Russians were able to counter and recapture that city down in western Ukraine. They only had about half of the fighting force. They're going into Russia. They're waiting on the rest of it. Most of it, or all their armor, is in Hungary right now. This is their armor that's in Hungary, and they're going to bring up. They did purchase 3 of their heavy artilleries, a couple more mechs, a couple more artilleries, more infantry is going to join it in western Ukraine and then move on from there. So what's currently in there, stack of infantry, 3 medium tanks, 2 Mark IVs, 2 mechanized, 1 SS mechanized, 1 SS infantry, and 5 artillery. The Russians seen that move in. They were like, okay, let's attack them. Unfortunately, the Russians weren't in the position to get their infantry in. All their units were in this territory. They couldn't. They could have certainly went in with all their tanks and planes and whatever they could, but they have no infantry wall to defend it. So they repositioned up here, 1 space away from Moscow, and maybe make an attack. Depends on what the Germans. But all this will be in there. All those tanks. So it's going to be quite difficult. The most logical point for the Russians to make a counterattack would be up here. It was very lightly garrisoned. They only got 2 mechanized and infantry up in Finland. They only got an infantry and an artillery. Even France is lightly garrisoned, so they're going to have to pour some more resources into France to hold off the British that build up a sizable navy now. So they got nice bit of transports. They got 4 here, 2 off the coast of Canada, 1 down here. They did lose Gibraltar. The Italians went in on the previous turn and took that out. So we'll see how the British respond. More likely, the British over the next couple turns, their short, long-term plan will be to help out the Russians by landing in France, forcing the Germans to put resources out west as opposed to east, The Americans are not quite in it yet, but the British will definitely need the Americans to make this strategy work. Right now, the Americans are sitting on $59 out of the 80 that they possibly need. So the American and the Russians, their die rolls are flipped. The Russians are rolling extremely well, rolling 11s and 12s, and the Americans are only rolling 5s and 7s. So it's delaying them a little bit. So hopefully, over the next little bit, the Americans get involved. For the Japanese, in China, they kind of started getting pushed back a little bit. The Japanese did make a major assault into this territory, wiping out quite a few Chinese infantry. But the Chinese were able to counterattack, and the Japanese lost 3 veteran infantry in that counter. Two veteran infantry have been lost, so they can't be replaced. So that's unfortunate. Communist China did move up one more territory, so now they're share a border with Russia, and we'll see how the rest of that plays out. China's got a nice little wall of infantry. So the problem with this, from the Japanese standpoint, is if you attack one, you should actually attack multiple. Like, the worst place for the Japanese to attack would be this territory, because then these two can counterattack, right? So you really want to attack 2 territories at the same time, wipe them out, limit their counterattack ability. The Japanese did come in here into Burma, cutting off the Burma Road. So the economic impact of this move, for the Japanese, they only gain $1. Not a big deal, but they reduce the Allies' income by 6. 1 for the territory and 5 for the Chinese. So that really hurts. They definitely need to get this back. So it looks like it's going to be on the FEC to make that happen. The Americans did lend lease China a tank, so they have some armor on the map now. So that's pretty decent. As for the islands, they spread out even more. Only 1 island left before this is all secure, and then go after this New Guinea island from the Anzacs. Japan wants at least one of these territories. They don't need to take the whole thing. They should take all 4 of these territories, but it's not like a mandatory thing. Take 1 territory and get rid of that bonus for the Anzacs. And they're going to start planning up to take out the Philippines and Guam soon. They'll probably wait for the Americans to be a little more closer to their $80 production and focus most of their buying power into the army, infantry, artillery, hold back the Allies, and then slowly start building up their navy. At this point, they should build 1 capital ship a turn, and then just before the Americans join, then you could dump a slew of escort vessels, destroyers and cruisers all at once. But they only purchased 1 battleship this turn. They should start building some more aircraft carriers soon. Get their navy up and running. So they're going to start building a second navy, and this more likely will all amalgamate together at some point, instead of being spread out to face off against the Americans. The Americans over here in the Pacific, they just got their entire fleet in Hawaii. They're not worrying about the Japanese Navy as of yet. They are pretty spread out, taking out the islands that they need to, and getting whatever work that Japan's priorities are at this point. So the Americans are just slowly building up. They do have a decent amount of money. $59 is, you can buy quite a few things with that. What's really limiting them is their production facilities. They only buy 9 units. So if you're building up your infantry corps. You're going to have a lot of money left over for the previous turn. So now's the time to build more expensive units, and then get the cheaper ones when you're at war. Russian Navy came down and blocked the passageway into the Atlantic from the Germans. Germans don't really see this much as a threat, as more of a nuisance, because if they were here, they could come out and strike. But now they're forced to stop in Sea Zone 17, giving the British more time to react to German Navy assaults. The German Navy is right here. So they got a battleship, a coastal battleship, 3 cruisers, 4 destroyers, and 5 submarines. And they got 2 more subs here. And of course, there are 2 transports. But we'll see. This is probably the biggest German Navy out of all the games that we've played so far. This is the biggest German Navy that we've had access to. So we'll see if we can utilize that in a productive way. But certainly the Germans' focus is on their army. So we'll see how all this plays out. FEC did a little more of a build-up. Got some more armor. Got a heavy artillery now. So we'll see if we can't dispatch the Japanese. Open up that Burma Road one more time. And go from there. In Africa, the Italians, this territory here was opened up, so they just did a walk-on. The French Foreign Legion have all clustered together, got a little bit of support by the British infantry, but certainly the Italians definitely got a stranglehold on this part of the map. Cairo building up, holding off its defenses, bringing down the units they've gained from the Iran, so they're going to start slowly coming down and trying to help out as much as they can. Horn of Africa is fully under British Empire control, so they're slowly building up or sending up infantry from South Africa to help out. And the combined navy of the Mediterranean and FEC have joined together. So we'll see if we can't. Not sure what the plan is for these guys. Do they swing around completely ignoring the Italians, coming around Africa to join up in the Atlantic to challenge the Germans? Or do they come into the Mediterranean and try to destroy the Italian fleet? Not sure yet. We'll see what happens. The Italians did purchase another cruiser and destroyer to go along with their current fleet of this. So 1 battleship, 3 cruisers, 5 destroyers, 5 subs. Certainly another battleship would be beneficial for the Italians. The British here, they have 2 battleships, carrier, escort carrier, 2 cruisers, and 4 destroyers. So certainly they're definitely winning with the capital ships, 3-1, but the escort vessels, the vessels that you're going to take your hits on, the Italians definitely got more. So we'll see how all that plays out. So the plan for the Germans now for this turn, just amalgamate together, get your units in the position that they need to be in. I can't see them advancing any further, as they don't really have the firepower to do so. But definitely get all your units in the position so you can strike on the previous turn. That's probably the plan for the Germans this turn. Plan for the Russians, certainly hold your ground, hold your defenses, and try to limit the Germans' options as much as you can. Certainly, Finland is now wide open as there's only 2 units. So I think it's certainly jump in there, take some money, take some options away from the Germans. Same thing with the Japanese. It's probably going to be a turn of getting their units into position to make a strike on the previous turn or the next turn after. So probably a lot of maneuvering for the next coming up round. Probably not saying that there is going to be a few attacks, but we'll see. All right. Well, thank you for watching and have a great day.